Alright guys, welcome back to Legends of Evil, where I talk about the villains outside of the comic books. And today I'm going to be talking about Godzilla's ultimate enemy, Destoroyah! You gotta say it like that, but I'm not. I can't say it like that or I'll tear my vocal cords out. But yeah, Destoroyah. Destoroyah is quintessentially the last monster that Godzilla fought in the Heisei era. And while he only had one movie, he had a major impact on the Godzilla, franchise. That being, he's the monster that killed Godzilla. He is quintessentially Godzilla's Doomsday. But when you think about it, not only is he like Doomsday, in a way, Destoroyah is very much like a combination of Doomsday and Cell from Dragon Ball Z. And I'll get to that in a moment. But first I want to talk about of course, I'm going to talk a bit about Destoroyah's origins. Destoroyah is a creature came from microorganisms that was mutated, that had survived well past the Precambrian era, making technically Destoroyah is the oldest Godzilla character in that universe, because the microorganisms that were spawned had lived there so long, even longer than Godzilla before he was mutated. But I digress. So what happened is that when the first Godzilla was killed by Dr. Serizawa using the oxygen destroyer, the microorganisms were mutated by the oxygen destroyer, and for over 40 years continued to evolve until they became tiny little organisms that slowly grew within the soil of Tokyo Bay. It wasn't in the 50 year time period. 40 years, excuse me. In that time period, they kept evolving until they reached a new form that made them large enough so they could go out on land and feed, which led to an Alien ripoff scene, but let's admit it, that scene is pretty goddamn awesome. From there, it was discovered that thanks to the beams these creatures could project, it was more or less decided by the government, because at the time Godzilla's body had absorbed too much radiation, and he was going to create when he died, he was going to create a global catastrophe. So they basically came up with this idea: let's just have Destoroyah fight Godzilla fight Destoroyah. Destoroyah kills Godzilla. But I really wanted to be in that meeting, and someone bringing up the fact that, okay, but what do we do about Destoroyah? If he does kill Godzilla, what do we do about him? I don't want to be in a world where a thing that can kill Godzilla exists. But of course, I know we all know how this goes. But we all know how the story goes. It's just that I want to be in that. I would love to be in that meeting room and someone going, "But what happens after? did anyone think this through? We still have Destoroyah." Anyway. So, yes, Destoroyah, after becoming larger, became a major threat, and the first monster he encountered was not Godzilla, but his son, Junior. And yeah, Junior got in some good hits here and there, but Destoroyah inevitably did kill him, until dying, not at the hands of Godzilla, although Godzilla did mortally wound him. What happened was, after being mortally wounded, the G-Force finished him off and permanently killed Destoroyah. However, his dark legacy lives on as the monster who managed to defeat Godzilla in battle. Like I said, the Doomsday allegory right there. But you're probably wondering, well, you said he was a combination of Doomsday and Cell. Where does that come in? Glad you asked. Apparently, according to a lot of credible sources, is that according to Toho, a lot of sources say, and coming out of Toho itself, is that there was this headcanon among the people of Toho, was that Destoroyah, basically, whatever he touched, or whatever he absorbed or consumed, he took on the features of. Hence, why when the battle between Junior and Destoroyah happened, and when he plunged his mouth into his chest, he basically drained some of Junior's DNA and gave him the perfect form. And it's not even decided or not. It's actually that could be what we saw as Destoroyah's final form may not be his quote-unquote final form. There was a good chance that Destoroyah was still evolving, but as it stood, he was at his perfect form, but he always had a chance. Had he not been killed, he would have kept evolving. Very much like how Shin Godzilla is. Actually, there's a lot of comparisons between Destoroyah and Shin when you think about it. You know, life forms created out of something that was meant to help humanity and destroy something else, and it keeps evolving and forcing people to change their battle strategies, much like how Godzilla and the JDF and G-Force had to keep evolving to compete with both radioactive Godzilla and Destoroyah, and yeah, it also could spawn other versions of itself, much like Shin was about to do. So yeah, there's a lot of comparisons between Destoroyah and Shin when you think about it. But yeah, Destoroyah also had several other abilities, much as not only could he absorb the features and abilities of other creatures around him, but there was also supposed to be a chest laser. If you guys remember, there's that hole in his belly, and that was going to open up, and in some concept arts, it showed him shooting a beam that destroyed several of Godzilla's dorsal fins and even cut off half of his tail. But that was in concept. Although I think they kept it in the manga adaptation of this. They also kept the alternate ending of Godzilla dragging Destoroyah to his death. But however, and I actually agree with Toho on this, is that while it was a good scene, they felt like they didn't want to cheapen Godzilla's death because they really wanted to focus on him, and I respect that. I mean, it was the Big G's final moment for the longest time, so might as well make it count, right? Anywho, so Destoroyah also had, of course, he could project beams that were pretty much a concentrated version of the Oxygen Destroyer, which got stronger and stronger with each form he took. Not only that, he was capable of flight, he had super durability, he could take on full hits from the Red Spiral Beam, several hits from the Red Spiral Beam by Godzilla, and he also was incredibly intelligent. That's the other thing a lot of people don't talk about, is that Destoroyah is much like Space Godzilla, is one of the few very sentient creatures in the Toho universe. What I mean is, Destoroyah knew what he was doing. Much like Space Godzilla, who was like a master manipulator in a way. I'm of course referring to Space Godzilla in the IDW comics, where Space Godzilla in the Godzilla quote-unquote ongoing, which only lasted 13 issues, he was actually the one who set up the space invasion with all the kaijus. Now, Destoroyah actually gained sentient thought once he reached his intermediate form, his like crab-like form. And basically, he knew what he was doing. He knew he was killing hundreds of people, and he loved it. He actually was a completely malevolent being who actually inflicted pain on Junior just because he could. He actually could kill Junior whenever he wanted to. He just actually finished off Junior to make Godzilla suffer. Yeah. He did that on purpose. He didn't do it just because, oh, you're the weak one. Oh, your dad's here? Well, he's gonna watch you die now. That's actually how it goes down, is that Destoroyah is an evil being. You know, he's just pure evil incarnate. And it also is very interesting, again, of that he was created out of something that was, that was meant to kill the first Godzilla and meant to help humanity, and yet in his, even though Serizawa wanted to save humanity at the cost of his own life, he inadvertently created a monster that was even more dangerous than Godzilla. Something he feared that would happen if he let the plans for the Oxygen Destroyer actually get out, was that he was afraid the Oxygen Destroyer would create something more dangerous than Godzilla if it got in the wrong hands. But sadly, that happened anyway. Yeah. In any case, Destoroyah has shown up in several of the IDW comics, such as Godzilla Cataclysm, Rulers of Earth, where I feel like while Rulers of Earth was really good, I feel like Destoroyah just kind of felt like another monster. He didn't feel like, the end-all be-all kaiju, much like in several other comics, such as, Oblivion, where even though Oblivion, he just kind of felt like a boss fight, really. And then you had Godzilla in Hell, which gave him a lot more credit, but he was alongside Ghidorah, and it wasn't even them, it was like demonic versions of them, where they were testing Godzilla. So now that I think about it, he hasn't really had a lot of big shines in the comic, because like I said in Rulers of Earth, he just felt like another minion, other than, you know, the big demonic force that we all know him to be. Like I said, he just kind of felt tacked on in Cataclysm. Why'd I say Oblivion? Yeah, Godzilla Cataclysm, he just kind of felt tacked on. In Rulers of Earth, he just felt like a minion, because he had to get help fighting Godzilla with Ghidorah and Manda and Titan. He was teamed up with, Manda, Ghidorah, and Titanosaurus to fight Godzilla, when he could have, you know, if we all know the real Destoroyah, yeah, he could have done it himself. And he even got it, you know, he managed to get a few good hits on Godzilla, but keep in mind, Godzilla, before he teamed up with Mothra and her larva to fight him in the beginning of Rulers of Earth, when the first few issues were starting out, Godzilla was wounded in a fight after a surprise attack. You know, Destoroyah had to catch him off guard, and Godzilla was still weak when he fought him. Even then he lost the fight, but then again, Mothra and her children were teamed up with him, so, yeah. Anyway, but, you know, I still love the IDW comics, don't get the wrong idea from this, but keep in mind, I still love the IDW comics regardless. And I know they had a lot more stuff planned for Destoroyah in Rulers of Earth, but they weren't able to do it because, you know, IDW was cutting them off, so sadly that, you know, a lot of the stuff couldn't happen with them. Anyway, but yeah, Destoroyah is a very memorable villain, because look at him! He's the goddamn devil! It makes sense for Godzilla's last opponent to be like, and him facing death, is to look like an incarnation of death itself. So yeah, it does make sense that would happen. But in any case, Destoroyah became a memorable Godzilla villain, and is also registered by Toho to be one of the 2 monsters that can overpower Godzilla. Of course, the other one being King Ghidorah. But, yeah. So there you go, guys. That is pretty much, that's pretty much all I had to say about King Ghidorah. Not King Ghidorah. Destoroyah. Excuse me. But Destoroyah like I said, he remains a fandom favorite, even though he had 1 movie, whereas opposed to several Godzilla monsters, they had several, especially King Ghidorah, but who knows? Maybe in some point we'll see him again. There's always a good chance we may see Destoroyah somewhere in the Godzilla Monster Planet trilogy. You know, the Godzilla anime. I mean, Space Godzilla and Orga are finally returning in Monster Planet. They're finally coming back to the franchise, alongside several other monsters that have been seen for a while. So who knows? Maybe there's a possibility that maybe the killer of kings, or, you know, how about let's just call Destoroyah the Kingslayer. Maybe we'll see the Kingslayer sometime in the future. Who knows? Maybe there's always a possibility with this monster and, you know, the fandom's love for him. But you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think of Destoroyah? Do you guys like him? Do you guys hate him? And do you guys want to see him in the future? You know, do you guys want to see him in a future film, whether it be in the anime universe, or in the Toho universe, or even in Legendary? Just comment below, let me know, and once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.